Well, with the NFL season only a few weeks away, I thought I'd begin a little series of divisional predictions. Let's rock and let's go over the AFC North. All right, what's going on, guys? My name is Antonio, and welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast. Today, we are beginning my 8 episode series of divisional predictions. So, today we're starting off with the Nightmare Division, as I like to call it, the AFC North. I'm going to be going over each individual team. I'm going to be going over their highest ceiling of record and their lowest of floor record. So, I'm going to be going over basing these off of last season's statistics and, of course, their off-season moves. I'm going to be going over them in divisional order from last season. So this is going to be the first one. Next episode, we'll be doing the NFC North. We're going to be going from north to south to east to west. And before we get started, if you guys do enjoy, I am trying to aim for 375 subscribers before the beginning of the NFL season next year. So if we could hit that margin, that would be really appreciated and it would be really needed. And if you guys do enjoy, please be sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. For now, let's get this discussion started. Before we get into this video, today's sponsor for this video is Q Streaming. It is a streaming system that you can go to. I'll have the link down in the comment section below, down in the description. And basically what this is, for I just want to take a moment to explain this. The Q Streaming app not only allows you to watch live TV from around the world, you like if you lived in North Carolina, you could get it all the way up to the west coast of San Francisco, LA, Seattle, pretty much anywhere so you can support your favorite team. And not only that, but if you can sign someone up with your code, you get an additional $6 a month. So be sure to check it out. I'll have the link down in the description by the time this video posts. But for now, let's get this video started. First up, you got the defending AFC North champion, the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens, they were one of the top teams of the NFL last year. Of course, losing in the AFC Championship game to the nightmare team, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. But anyway, the Ravens lost a few key pieces in the offseason, including Geno Stone, Jadeveon Clowney, and Patrick Queen to their division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they gained a few weapons as well, including drafting Nate Wiggins and TJ Tampa for the secondary to help support Kyle Hamilton and a few other pieces. But this team has a really decent offense. Lamar Jackson's still there. You still got Zay Flowers. You still got Justice Hill. You still got Mark Andrews. This team is still stacked on offense. So if I had to go with the floor for this team, I could see them going maybe 9-8, if at worst. Like if their team was held back by injuries, because we all know if Lamar goes down, the entire team struggles. If that does happen, I could see him going 9-8. But the ceiling for this team, I could easily see it being 25, 12-5. My bad. I was almost about to say 25. My bad. But anyways, 12-5 because their defense is still led by the greatness of John Harbaugh, the greatest quarterback, greatest coach in that division right now. So I'm going with 12-5 for the ceiling and 9-8 for the floor as far as record goes for the Baltimore Ravens. And I'll be stating which team I have in specific places near the end of the video. So now let's move on to the next team. Next up is the AFC North runner-up, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns, they have not won the division in a long time. But this roster is still as stacked as it was. You bring in now Jerry Jeudy from the failing Denver Broncos. You also still have Amari Cooper. You still got Nick Chubb and David Njoku. Deshaun Watson, we still need to see if he's back from his back into his peak form that he had when he was with Houston, because we all know when he was in Houston, he was one of the best quarterbacks to watch. He led the NFL in passing yards that year that they had that bad season after their divisional loss to the Chiefs. But pretty much the Browns, they're a question mark pretty much. Their defense is really good, led by the leadership, of course, of Myles Garrett. But other than that, we still need to see if Deshaun Watson can lead this offense, because you paid him all that cash and he's still not doing anything. Pretty much the only guys that are doing something for the team are backups like Jacoby Brissett the year before, and then Joe Flacco coming off of the bench, coming off of the couch this past season. But as far as the floor goes for this team, I could see him going 8 and 9 if, at worst case scenario, Deshaun Watson plays awful and this team does end up being ousted from the first round and ousted from the playoffs entirely. But a ceiling I could have for them is 11 and 6, because if Deshaun Watson could hit the peak of what he was once before, this team could still be relatively decent. And if he can lead them to the playoffs and a playoff victory, or let alone maybe an AFC Championship game, I mean, that is highly unlikely. But if he could do that, that would silence a lot of critics, including myself, because I kind of criticize Deshaun Watson from time to time. But but that's why I have the Cleveland Browns rankings at that way. Now let's move on to the next team. Next up is the team that has new quarterback management of mediocre quarterback play once again, the black and yellow Pittsburgh Steelers. After losing Kenny Pickett to a trade with the Eagles, and also along with Mason Rudolph to the Tennessee Titans in a free agent signing, and Mitch Trubisky that can't throw a dang accurate pass for crying out loud to the Buffalo Bills. Now they have former Seattle quarterback Russell Wilson that got let go by the Donkeys after a failed trade attempt to revive their franchise. But anyway, sorry, I just had to rub it into the Bronco fans. Sorry. But anyways, the Steelers not only got Russell Wilson, but they also got Justin Fields, who was traded away because they were going for their future in Caleb Williams. But this team still got stacked pretty much on the defensive side with the addition of Patrick Queen, which we don't know if he's going to perform well outside of having Roquan Smith, because he was really good when Roquan Smith arrived, but before he arrived, Patrick Queen was really terrible. But this will be a big question mark. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a big question mark because their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, I still believe is not an upgrade over Matt Canada. His record speaks for it all as a head coach. And he had the 17th ranked offense last year with a decent defense. Do you have the 17th ranked offense and go 7 and 10? A team with that record would at least go 9 and 8 and maybe make a playoff appearance. But the Falcons didn't do it. Then again, it is the Atlanta Falcons. But the Steelers, there is still a lot of question marks around this franchise because their offense has not been that great. Their offense total was 26th in the NFL last year. Their defense was pretty much what led them to the playoffs before eventually getting smothered and pounded by the Buffalo Bills with the absence of TJ Watt. The entire season is going to come down to the health of TJ Watt because as long as their defense is still good, this team has a chance. But I don't see it because their offense is right now pretty awful. Their offensive line, they revamped their offensive line with the two draft picks, including Troy Faltonu, which was a guy I really wanted to join the Seahawks, but oh well. And then also Zach Frazier, however you pronounce it. But these two, I believe, was a need for the Steelers. But as far as floor goes, if all worst case scenario happens, if at worst case scenario, Russell Wilson has an impact on their locker room and is the cancer in their locker room, as he was up in Denver, I could see this team going 7-10 because if Russell Wilson is the starter the entire season, they are going to have a losing season. Period. Because Russell Wilson is a cancer in the locker room. He was being yelled at by his defensive lineman the season before last when they were going against Carolina, and then got yelled at by Sean Payton in the game against the Lions last season. If that happens again in this locker room, this team is going to have a losing season without a doubt. But if all goes good, if all goes relatively decent, if they do start Justin Fields, I still see them having a little chance, but not enough to have a winning season. I'm going to go with a total of 8-9 because even though Russell Wilson is past his prime, Justin Fields has not proved himself outside of Chicago yet because he has not made a single playoff appearance. He has not been in a great situation and goes to a much worse situation in Pittsburgh with defenses hitting you from left to right. And because it is the nightmare division, which is the AFC North. But now let's move on to the last team on this specific list. And last but not least, a team that did very poorly after their injury to Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, I do see being better than they were last season because Joe Burrow is, of course, back. We are still waiting to see if he will perform at what he was. But we all know that injuries could lead to very problematic situations because, as we all know, he suffered a wrist injury at the beginning, at halfway through last season. I've sustained a wrist injury myself, not like a strain, but I've fractured my wrist once or twice, so I know what that's like. And trust me, it is painful to hurt your wrist. It is very painful, but that's another story for another day. The Bengals, they lost a few pieces from their roster, including Joe Mixon. But they did get a few other pieces as well. They got Zach Moss in free agency, who was previously with the Colts, and they also ended up getting a few good, relatively decent pieces, including Amarius Mims in the draft of Georgia, who is a big brother, by the way. He's going to be really decent. But this team is still pretty much the ultimate kryptonite to the Kansas City Chiefs because Joe Burrow is the only quarterback in the NFL currently to ever beat Mahomes in the playoffs. So we still look at this team as the kryptonite to Kansas City if they can perform very well. So at absolute worst case scenario, Joe Burrow does not look good, and he is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, and diminishes the team down to a 8-9 record. That is that worst case scenario. Best case scenario is Joe Burrow performs at his highest peak, and he leads the team once again to the playoffs and wins the division in a record of 13-4. I'm going with the highest record, 13-4. So if that all happens, if best case scenario, they go 13-4. But now for the places that I have each of the teams coming in come 2024. All right, it's time for the rankings of the AFC North. First up, in last place, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, because the Steelers, they still have a lot to prove. They still need to have a playoff win. They have not done that. They have mediocre quarterback play incoming, which is Arthur Smith's weakness, which will only diminish the Steelers more, especially when you have a guy named Russell Wilson in the locker room who is a cancer in the locker room. And then next up is the third place team. I've got the Cleveland Browns because even though Deshaun Watson is back and healthy, I still don't fully trust the Browns, and I don't fully trust them. But I do think they're better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then number two, this one is a very close choice. But I'm ultimately going with the Baltimore Ravens because even though they have a new revamped team, I think that the loss of Mike McDonald to Seattle to become the head coach is gonna diminish the Baltimore Ravens, which I'm hoping I'm wrong because I have much respect for Lamar Jackson. And then, of course, that means that the Bengals will win the division. So I think with Joe Burrow back, because of his capability as a quarterback, I do believe that the Bengals will come back and win the division this year. So final rankings is Bengals 1, Ravens 2, Browns 3, and the Steelers coming in last place. But let me know in the comments what you guys think down in the comment section below. What team do you guys think is going to win the division? And give me your places of which you guys have each individual franchise. And let me know why down in the comment section below because I would love to hear it. But if you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Next time we'll be going over the NFC North. I'll catch you all then. So long for now.